When reading historical spiritual poetry, we often see it as formless emotion. We imagine a mystic overwhelmed by feeling, pouring out words without rigid structure. But if we look closer, the highest forms of theology operate exactly like mathematical proofs. They are architectural blueprints. Consider the concept of a spiritual hierarchy. In popular thought, it is a vague religious idea. In reality, it operates as a measurable system of cosmic governance. To understand how the mechanics of this universe function, we have to abandon the emotional reading. We need to adopt a strictly structural, analytical lens. We can test this approach on a specific artifact, a simple Punjabi and Urdu couplet regarding the Prophet Muhammad. The literal translation reveals the raw meaning. Every individual of high status, every master of heads, pure Muhammad bestowed honor unto them all. These two lines contain a precise, logical map of the distribution of spiritual status. By dismantling the syntax of this verse, we expose the exact physical laws governing the flow of honor within Sufi epistemology. This diagram maps the deliberate structural inversion of the poem. The text presents the final consequence before revealing the mechanism. Look at the top green box, representing the result. This line outlines the elevation of individuals possessing high status. Now drop to the bottom green box, the cause. This reveals the specific action, divine bestowal, that makes the elevated state possible. To grasp the physics of this hierarchy, read the logic in reverse, following the upward arrow. True spiritual status is never an independent, self-generated condition. It is a rigid consequence of a specific external action. The entire equation relies on a foundational variable, the source. The poet deliberately uses the prefix pak, meaning pure. Only a source of purity has the systemic capacity to distribute true honor. Understanding how this distribution works requires strict delineation between two separate mechanisms of reward. This graphic illustrates the first concept, sila. As shown by the scales of justice on the left, sila is a secular, transactional logic. Reward is a wage earned through direct labor, intense effort, or strict asceticism. The text contrasts sila with Atā. Atā is the mechanism of pure, unconditional bestowal from the Prophet. It operates independent of the recipient's personal labor or merit. A spiritual system anchored by purity cannot rely on transactional, ego-driven mechanics. It requires the logic of unconditional Atā. This graphic highlights the phrase har ik, meaning every single one. It defines the universal target demographic for this bestowed honor, covering everyone from historical companions to modern ascetics. This cyclical diagram illustrates how receiving unconditional grace yields sardari, or mastery over heads. The rotating arrows visualizes the mastery from servitude loop. The relinquishing of one's own ego, the willing bowing of the head, acts as the exact mechanical trigger that yields universal authority. In this cosmological framework, true authority operates in exact inverse proportion to personal ego. This horizontal flowchart reconstructs the complete architecture of the couplet from right to left. The operational path is linear. Honor flows from the pure source on the right, through the unconditional act of bestowal, to the humble recipients, culminating in an eternal state of leadership. This comparison matrix directly pits that spiritual architecture against our default, worldly operating system for assigning value. Focusing on the foundation row, we see that worldly status relies on accumulating wealth and power. Spiritual honor relies entirely on connection to the pure source. Dropping down to the duration row reveals the difference in lifespan. The worldly mechanism is inherently temporary and decaying. The spiritual mechanism generates a state that is eternal and independent of time. The secular system requires constant maintenance and is structurally designed to fail. The Sufi system is architecturally designed for permanence. This leads to the ultimate conclusion of the text regarding the nature of spiritual rank. This eclipse metaphor captures how status is reflected. Notice the pitch-black void. Without connection to the source, humans possess no self-generated luminosity. Now look at the brilliant ring. All perceived mastery is strictly a reflection of the pure source shining from behind it. Status in this framework is an acquired reflection from a pure source, never a self-generated property. With the cosmological engine described by these two lines now fully exposed, we can return to the text itself. This Venn diagram visualizes the author's deliberate linguistic choice. They bypassed high academic Arabic or Persian, opting instead for regional Punjabi. The overlapping center represents imtizaj, the intersection. The author proves that encoding highest laws does not require pretentious jargon. A systemic law is so structurally sound that it requires no adornment. It can be perfectly executed in the simplest, most grounded language of the common people.